Hello and welcome back to the show. This week we have the pleasure of interviewing a good friend of ours. We've been working with Ryde from Burlington Hypnosis Center for quite a few months now in terms of business. She also does a lot of hypnosis work, and she is a human behavior specialist who helps people with any challenges that they're going through. And so we're excited to share this episode with you today because we're going to talk about something that a lot of people deal with. We are practitioners, and if you're someone who works with people in any context, this could be in business, this could be your family, this could be your spouse, your parents, it could be anyone. These are things that are going to come up for you. So thank you for joining us today, Tree.
Oh, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And so what we wanted to talk about today is kind of anger and resentment and how that can come up in any relationship. It's definitely something that I've experienced in my life in with parents, with colleagues, with staff, with clients as well. And so, yeah, we wanted to dig into that with you and kind of get your take on it and then have a conversation around it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love having conversations with you, and I want to let all the listeners know that the shenanigans that we end up in before we end up recording and just laughing and this is really sort of the sentiment and the outcome that we're looking for everybody listening to this, because it really is a choice. We can choose to stay in anger or resentment or guilt. That's another common one that's coming up. Or we can choose to be in fun shenanigans, joking around, not taking self seriously, right? The more seriously we take certain things, the more we're in unuseful states of emotion, right?
Yeah. I laugh at the term unuseful because we've also been in some conversations because Tree does talks as well and talks about how saying I'm sorry is an
Mm.
unuseful thing. And so every time Amanda and I, one of us will say, "Oh, sorry for that," in the house, we're like, "That's unuseful." And then there's shenanigans that come up from that as well. And just when it comes to I guess the anger, the resentment, blame, all of these things, we see them come up with clients a lot of the times, and there's things going
Mhm.
on in their life and they're either looking to blame someone else or they're angry about something, and it's like it's stopping you from moving forward if you're holding on
Mhm.
to those things, especially if you have an outcome, something that you're looking to achieve, right?
Absolutely. I find so many people forget what their outcome is, right? They get caught up in the anger and resentment. And so when people hear or the word sorry, it's like a nervous system thing, right? So you look at different words in the English language, or even from an emotional perspective, there's a different vibration in the human body when somebody's angry. And for the most part, this happens, anger, resentment, guilt, frustration,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
These all happen because somebody has a perception in their mind of how something should go down, whether it's a situation or how somebody close to them should behave. And then all of a sudden, the truth in front of them happens. The person's behavior is different to what they perceived it should be in their mind. Okay. Like, so a massive example of that would be, say, somebody's together dating and say their expectation is to get engaged or to move in with one another or to talk about moving in with one another
Hmm.
or to whatever, what have you. And then all of a sudden that doesn't happen. And so the person can get into their head about like, oh, maybe they don't like me. And if they say this or they say that, then I'm going to say this or, and then I'm going to say that, or, and we always win in our own mind. And that's really the process, right? And I'm sure anyone can relate to that. But the truth is communication. The truth is that if we hold on to these perception in our mind and get angry of the crap that we're making up in our head, that's
Hmm.
the technical term spelled CRAP, capital C, lowercase a, lowercase r, maybe capital P for the crap, right? So
Yeah.
it's really important for people to learn the tools and techniques, especially if you are a health practitioner. Lots of health, every health practitioner.
Hmm.
It's impossible for every health practitioner if the expectation that every single client that a health practitioner sees, that that client is going to do exactly what the practitioner says. Some clients drop off and it has nothing to do with the health practitioner. even when we talk about spouses, the mood and energy of any spouse, it goes up and down. So if the expectation is that everybody is like fresh cut daisies and sunshine and happy, happy, joy, joy, that's just not realistic for life. So I'll let Amanda, like, what, teach me, I don't know. I want to hear your take on what, like, so, and the reason why I'm doing that is Amanda and Kate, just anyone that's listening, we've worked together. We're friends now. And so the relationship is growing and it's great. And so part of that relationship is the conversations that we have together. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so from a vibrational perspective, I'm pulling off Amanda's and Kate's vibration in terms of the information that's being facilitated out through. So Amanda, go.
I'm still on the happy, happy, joy, joy, the Ren and Stimpy from back in the day. There's that. Yeah, I think hopefully something coherent's going to come out.
It will. It does.
Even for myself, working with clients, it's just seeing how much this can hold them back. They're in the cycle of just, for whatever reason, if it's the secondary gain, they're getting something from having their symptoms. And in the one case that I'm thinking of, had massive symptoms. Lots going on with family, lots of responsibilities, lots of things. And just even working with us, getting to a point, there's like very little progress. And for me, this is growing as well, learning how to help clients better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just tapping into what are the needs, what do they need to hear in order to switch their perspective. I know ultimately it's their responsibility to see, what do I need to do? What do I want to do? But if we can help them find that shift and move forward, it's huge for someone.
It absolutely is huge. It's freedom. It's freedom.
And to realize what's been holding them back. I know exactly what you're talking about. And we can get stuck in this dialogue in our head that, like, this is my problem and this is what I need someone to help me fix. And the practitioner can't do it for you. It needs to be something that you make a choice that I'm going to make the changes that I need to make to get to where I want to be with my health. And it's maybe going to be taking vitamins, but there's more to it than that.
Well,
if
where's
there's
the focus too?
Sorry?
Where's the focus as well? Is the focus in the right place?
Yeah, exactly. And if there's stuff that's been like holding you back or getting in your way, you can't keep it's like we had a conversation a while ago where Tree was like, it's like holding a pile of poo in your hand and analyzing the poo. You need to get rid of poop in your hand and move through it. You can't just keep like, oh, okay, well that's not great. Like, there's part of the process is working past that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like standing in a pile of crap. And it's like, okay, well, you're complaining about the smell and everything, where you can literally just walk out of the pile of crap. And the more that you walk away from it, the less it smells, the less it's on your shoes, the less it's all around you, right? Mm-hmm. And absolutely. And the interesting thing is, sometimes even when people are so fixated in the dialogue in their mind, when they get rid of it, sometimes people could look for it again because it gave them some sense of adventure. It allowed them to feel emotionally, right? Like, so if people aren't seeking out the individuals that they need in their life that bring them the happy, happy, joy, joy, then they're defaulting to old patterns and old behaviors. Okay. Many, many people, they stay there for their entire life. Mm-hmm. They end up in the blame, in the anger, in the resentment, in guilt. Some people, they start to say things that they feel that people want to hear. Mm-hmm. So their perception is, oh, I hope this person likes me. And it's a nervous system thing. It's not a conscious thing. And then all of a sudden they end up being lonely because they've sort of ruined relationships because people think that they're lying.
Yeah.
Where the truth is that these people, they're not doing it on purpose, which also too doesn't give them a pass, because the truth is that they're choosing to not change themselves. They're choosing not to level with what's going on. So through freedom is this theme of forgiveness. There's this beautiful technique that we teach clients, which is called Ho'oponopono, which means chant and forgiveness. It's Hawaiian, and it's this beautiful ancient forgiveness technique that I forget the actual tribe of it, and I could have totally even butchered the name, but it took me 3 months to get the name. But it's interesting because when we choose forgiveness in the moment, forgiveness of ourselves, forgiveness of others, and it's not about saying like, oh yeah, it's okay that you did this to me. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is letting go of the emotions based around the situation. It's letting go of the dialogue. It's letting go of what that other person has a hold on you from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the situation itself. So even when you look at couples, if say one person in the relationship has resentment because they're looking after kids, they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're working full time and they're organizing all the family dinners, and they're like, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so many people put so much pressure on themselves to do so much,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of a sudden people that, well, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. Well, why do you have to, right? If your floor is not vacuumed on a certain day, is the clean floor police going to come over and give you a ticket? Or, the dishes in the sink police, are they going to come by and all of it, So it's really looking at asking for help even. Lots of people, whatever they've gone through in life, they have a kind of what I like to call the I'll do it myself, damn it kind of mood or attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't, and to look back and try to figure out, oh yeah, this is where that came from. It really doesn't matter, because if you're looking back, this is where it came from, you're still in it.
True.
Right? So through the Ho'oponopono, the technique is about cutting cords. And from a nervous system perspective, you're really cutting the cords, disassociating from old habits, old patterns, old thoughts. Even, there's clients that I've worked with that were raped or that have been through extremely unfortunate situations in their life. Yeah. And oh my gosh, like it's horrific, some things. And these things should never happen to any human being. But the decision is you can allow something horrific or horrible happen that hold on to you, or you can be patient with yourself and also move through it. Because, we are emotional beings. So if we're choosing to stay in an unuseful vibration or emotion, that's where we're living our life from.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that, even from the perspective around health. And we see that with a lot of clients too. And in my experience, like being diagnosed with MS, I could have chosen to stay in that identity. That could have, and it did for a little while in my life. It became a part of who I was. Oh, I'm Kate, I have MS. And it was like, no, that's not me. I don't want to hold on to that. And that's kind of the secondary gain thing too, where it's like, oh, it gave me an out on a lot of things because, oh, I can't do that because I have this or whatever. And it's the same kind of concept when it's people that have been through traumatic experiences or whatever. You can choose to shift your energy. You can choose to try and work through that, or you can just go, well, it is how it is, and accept that, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that stagnation, even before maybe you have the symptoms, stagnation around the emotions can lead to perhaps a diagnosis or whatever outcome because of whatever you haven't been addressing.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, 1000%. I had a bunch of clients that come in with back pain. I don't know why men specifically back pain, women digestion or shoulder. Yeah, Kate just did the shoulder bop. Yeah. And so they'll come in and they've gone through every like MRI and nothing's wrong. And it's stress. They're holding on to anger. A lot of times it's a breakup, a nasty divorce, and there's kids involved, and also working full time and financial stress, moving, right? And all of these things can be held in the nervous system, or, well, you guys work a lot with clients, and in terms of their digestion or organs or things like that.
Yeah. And it makes there's a huge, as soon as someone comes in, it's like, oh, okay, what are you holding on to? Especially, I had a client a couple days ago, and same conversation. She was like, I can't lose weight and I'm constipated. And it was like, what are you holding on to?
Emotionally constipated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's something that we need to flesh out and we need to allow you to release, because you're not releasing that. Well, that's the reason you're holding on to these other things, right? Which we don't think about that. It's like, oh, I'm overweight, I need to exercise more and eat less, which there's a, $3 billion diet industry. I think it's more than that tells you that that's all you need to do. But it's such a deeper level than that. Like, that's where I love having these conversations with you, because we're all about the physical body and figuring out the systems and the organs and glands and what's working well and not. But it's like the mind body, there's such a connection there that a lot of people don't even take into consideration.
And it's funny, from what I've learned as well, that just kind of what I touched about before, when an incident happens, it can be like a year, 3 years beforehand, then something manifests in the body. I think it's the auric field. Is that where it starts and then eventually moves into the physical? If I got that right, I'm not sure, but
there is no right or wrong. I think it's probably, it's all correct.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it is. It's all 100% correct. And the interesting thing about us as humans, so us as humans, our nervous systems are the same as like cats, dogs, horses, right? Like, it's all along the spine. So even, I like to reference even us as humans when, I don't know if anybody has ever had the experience of having a rescue animal, right? So both of the dogs that I've had, both of them were rescues. And there's this, have you guys ever, actually, this is a whole other topic, but this is the shenanigans that anyone that's listening, this is the shenanigans that we end up in. Have you guys ever done like the trust technique with energy?
The lean back?
Wow, that was in stereo. No. So it's energetically, and it's like, so it's funny. So I have he looks like a black lab named Loki, and you guys have Lucky, which is also a black lab. And so it's the energy. So it's interesting because cats and dogs and horses, they can't speak. Us as humans, we've created a language. But the truth is that they have their own language, and it's an energetic language, and they can interact that way. Really? So when you choose to step into a mood or energy, and this is a really good way for somebody to transition their own energy, so that they're choosing their mood. They're choosing to step into forgiveness, cut the cords, let go, and to continue to make sure that stays there. Because it's not as simple to be like, oh yeah, just cut the cords from that, you'll be good, right? Like, it's well, it's the repetition of that, but it's also the repetition of choosing your mood. So you're choosing, okay, what mood is useful for me? Okay, that's the next step. What mood is good for me? Okay, great. So how can you get yourself into that mood or energy? Right? Is it playing music? Is it dancing around? Is it going out for a walk? Is it connecting with an animal or a human? Or, well, technically we are a species, an animal. But is it, what is it that you can do to transition yourself into a useful state of mind, into a useful state within your body, right? And it's so interesting how animals can connect with that. Like, a friend of mine, she has a rescue farm, and it is so cool. And I told you guys are going to end up there, but I mean, not as animals, but visit there.
Clarify.
Hold on, wait a minute, Tree. Where are we going with this one here? Well, are all of us as humans on this earth, are we on a rescue farm ourselves? Right? Who knows? Sure. Let's noodle on that for a second. But the thing is when you go there, it's like they're all free, right? So anyone out there that's listening to this, if you have a cat or a dog in your house, everybody who does have experienced the cat or dog walk up and just sort of rub beside you, right? Just either they walk beside you, or they try to go in between your legs, or they they sort of like rub along your leg or whatever. Well, imagine a horse doing that, right? Just coming up beside you and just like, hi, right? Like, and they're just like, and there's so much beauty and freedom to that because the horse is free and whatever that horse went through, like, and it's us as humans are exactly the same. Okay. You think about every dog, cat, horse, whatever animal has been rescued, they've been through something. So every single species cannot unexperience. Okay. So, and I'm talking about the species, and let's just human, dog, cat, horse. Let's leave it there. Okay. None of them can unexperience what they've experienced. Yes. So they're reacting or responding through whatever it is that they've experienced. Exactly the same as us as humans. The only difference is we have language. So we are creating these perceptions in our mind. So it's even going back when you're having that perception, catch yourself there before you even have the behavior. So when you're catching yourself at that first sign of resentment, because it's a natural state, part of it is a protection state of mind. Am I safe? Am I not? Can I potentially be hurt? Right? And when we think, especially in relationships, whether it's an intimacy partner, a sibling, parent, coworker, boss, anything at all. And so when you're choosing your emotion, you're catching yourself, even if there's an unuseful emotion, you're cutting the cords from it, getting yourself in a useful state. All of a sudden, you're happy, happy, joy, joy. That's what you should call this episode. Happy, happy,
Happy,
joy,
happy,
joy.
joy.
With forgiveness.
Does make me laugh. So
yeah. Well, so notice everyone, like you just experienced that. You're serious and then getting into a useful, happy state. Even before we started recording, I was trying to think of Amanda was taking a big swig of water in her absolutely stunning water glass. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Yes, I'm Amanda from Burlington. I have this beautiful water bottle. Yes. So I was trying to, make her laugh, which actually now thinking about it, then you would have spit all over your mic and maybe it would have broke the mic and then this would have, yeah. So yeah, that would have very much sucked and it would have been my fault and I would have owned it and I would have bought you another mic. So anyways, now we're into storytelling. Go ahead.
It's true though. It's so we can get caught into that emotion and that just keeps coming back, right? Because it's all pattern. And I mean, I think of with parents, especially if it's something that there's something that happened that you experienced as a young child when we were still in that period of our life where like it's all unconscious. Everything's being absorbed and taken in. And that's creating the patterns that are going to exist for the rest of our life. And so you go into an experience that's similar to what you had then. And it's like you go into that like fight or flight or that reaction that you would have had then. And so to catch that, yeah, that's huge. It's very cool.
Is there a specific example you can give
Yep.
for someone like myself? I know this is very high level that we're speaking, just to kind of give.
So an example of this would be, a lot of generational thing. Okay. So a lot of parents did not learn tools or techniques to really sort of cater to child. Okay. People, if they don't feel like they were parented the way that they were meant to be parented, meaning that the child had to step in and be the parent. Okay. This is the most common theme when I get clients that they had to go in and parent their parent. Huge resentment build, right? And the pattern, even when the parent gets older and the child, I say a child is now an adult, so 20, 30, even 40s, even 50s, right? If they can, every time they see, say their parent call, whoever the parent is, whether it's mom or dad, like their nervous system just goes, right? And so the patterns need to break. People need to create boundaries, right? There's lots of people out there. Like I had one client, and I have permission to share this story, that she was one of those people that she was looking after the mom, and she also had 4 kids of her own.
Mm.
Okay. And the mom was the youngest of 5, and she was a surprise baby. So she was 10 years younger than the older siblings, all girls.
Wow.
Yeah. So her being the youngest, all of a sudden these 4 older sibling females had a live doll. So she grew up not having to do anything, right? Like she had like 5 moms basically.
That's quite the dynamic.
Yeah. So now the client of mine that has 4 kids of her own, her mom just grew up that, oh, well, people just look after me. So even when she had her own child, she like, well, everybody just looks after me, even her older sisters. But then they got older, right? Because there's a 10-year gap, and for mobility issues or whatever would have you. And then so at a very young age, this individual was taking care of their mom, and oh my gosh, exhausted, right?
Yeah.
Not only did she have 4 kids of her own, but she had basically.
Yeah.
So, but once she went through forgiveness and started to really look after herself, then things started to really shift and change and even, when people choose to change themselves, the people around them could end up in the resentment and anger then, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, you used to always do this for me.
Mm-hmm. And you're breaking patterns now.
Yeah. And so us as adults, there's no such thing as guilt in adulthood. Guilt is just for kids to learn right and wrong. So if we're choosing to change ourselves, to look after ourselves, then that's what needs to happen. And if sometimes what happens too is people start to change themselves, and then they still end up in resentment and be like, well, I'm doing this for myself now. I've been looking after you for so long, and I've done this and I've done that, and I'm looking after, and it's still resentment, unuseful.
Yeah.
Even though, yes, you're taking care of yourself, you've created the boundaries. Awesome. What is a useful state for you? Okay. So it's this, and it's so cool when I see clients change, because it's like their energy or their aura almost changes around them. And and I love seeing that in clients. Like every client, they come in and it's like, they're a totally different person than when I first met them. And it's cool. Some people over time, they've changed so much, and they're like, oh yeah, they forget how they were. They're like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. Right. And then it's like, well, do you remember how you used to be? And they're like, oh yeah, this is much better.
Yeah. That's something I find so fascinating about NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnosis, just because it is working on the pieces of you that are keeping you stuck and that are holding you back, right? You can go into something, go to see someone and say, oh, I want to lose weight. And it's all focused on the outside, which is what we focus on a lot of the time, right? That's what you can see in the mirror. That's what other people can see. That's what you make perceptions in your mind of what people are going to think of you or what they're going to say. But it's like once you fix the inside stuff, it's crazy how much the outside changes. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that totally makes sense. And it's interesting. So to piggyback on what you just said, I was listening to the radio this morning, and they were talking about how a lot of people on their cell phones, they have all of these apps. So all of a sudden, all the apps is like a shopping mall on your phone. So if you're in resentment or you're in anger, and then all of a sudden you're seeking out instant gratification for buying something, and you have a whole shopping mall on your phone, whether it's, the grocery store app or like, I don't know, like I'm not a shopper. I like suck at shopping. I'm just, like it's just so, and I was listening to that. I was like, wow, that people, if you choose to stay in an emotional state that is unuseful, nobody, not one human being has said, I made the best decision in my life when I was pissed, right? Like that's just, it doesn't happen.
Like a good idea at the time.
Yeah. A good idea at the time.
Yeah.
And then it shows up at the door and you're like, why did I buy that? Huh.
Yeah. Right. What was I thinking? Where the better question would be, what mood or energy was I in? Right. So it's, I think the outcome and the takeaway for people listening to this is to really, if you're in unuseful dialogue in your mind, unuseful meaning that you're not feeling great, or you're going down a rabbit hole. Well, I guess it could be a hallway
Either,
too.
sure.
Yeah, let's go with both. That you're being accountable for your own emotional state. We all can be. If our expectation is, well, I want this person to, show up like a knight in shining armor and sweep me off my feet, and or I want my parent to call me or whatever, right? And well, why not make whatever you need happen for you, and to communicate it, right? Like when you guys are over at my place, it was last Friday. Yeah, so this is Friday. This is last Friday. And we were just talking about growing together in relationships, right? And it's a beautiful thing, right? Like I was telling you I was having lunch with this beautiful human being today, and we were just talking about humans, and he was commenting just on how I am and the energy that I guess put out there to the world, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm sure he worded it a totally different way, but whatever. And I can't take full credit for that. Because I've chosen my husband, and he's like an extension of myself, and we've grown together. And it's interesting. He sent me this quote that actually is exactly what we're talking about. And he sent it to me and said, "Oh, this would be good for your clients." I'll pull it up. Talk amongst yourselves while I put it up. Oh, here it is. He says, this is the quote: "Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments." Okay, I'll say that again. This is a really good one. It's pretty deep. Okay. Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. So that's really the foundation of what we're talking about. If we're expecting somebody to do something for us without letting them know about it, or if we're like perceiving that they're angry at us, or we're perceiving that somebody doesn't like us, if we're in judgment, right? Judgment, fear, what ifs, and then we're projecting on somebody else, then literally it's just a Netflix episode we're making up in our head that maybe we should pitch to a producer somewhere. Right? Like, if you're making it up, make money on it.
Good line.
That is a great
line. One time a client had called, and I thought, based on that call, they didn't leave a voicemail. I thought there was something not right. And I was, again, making the mental stories. And eventually, after a little while, I got a hold of this client, and they're like, "Oh, I just butt dialed you. Everything's good." Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
it's true. We make up so many stories in our mind, but so powerful. And yeah, I love everything that you've shared with us today. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah, we can wrap it up, and we'll leave everybody.
It's like 2 hours long.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up, and we'll leave it with the process. So the process is: notice your own emotional state, step 1. Notice your own emotional state, step 2. Is it useful or unuseful? Okay, if it's unuseful, cut the cords from it, and then choose what emotional state. Okay, so step 2, cut the cords from it. Step 3, pick what emotional state you want to be in. Is it happy? Is it sad? You can choose sad. Crying's good. Cry. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to yell. Allow yourself to dance around the house ridiculously. And then really choose this. The last step is choose love, choose connection, connect with people, hug somebody, right? Like, get connected with somebody. We as humans, we are meant to be with other human beings. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And there's something just so simple about the hug and an embrace with someone else who actually will reciprocate. Just a little note there.
Yeah.
It's just a simple thing. I love it. Thank you again for all your insights, your tips for everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I'm sure we'll have you back at some point to do more of these conversations because they're awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed, and we'll catch you on the next episode.